Welcome back to another episode of Chatroom with Shizza. Ladies and gentlemen, I always talk about how absolutely huge Pakistan is in terms of opportunities and then again challenges because of the population. But today I'm going to talk about how that huge population also, of course, is a part of a labor force. And when people are working, people have certain rights. I'm going to get into the detail of that. And for that, I have with me in the chat room the country director for International Labour Organization, Geir Thomas Tonstol. Hello, welcome to the chat room. How are you doing today?
I'm very well, thank you, and thank you so much for having me.
It's absolutely my pleasure. First things first, आपको उर्दू आती है? Since you're here 3 years.
Gigi.
Gigi, perfect. That's a good enough answer for me. All right, so to begin with, I'm going to be very honest. I absolutely love how active you are on your social media.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, because see, we live in a generation, or rather a time, where people will look at their phones first on the social media apps, and then news later, and then websites later. So for you to be available and for you to actually, share all the developments that you're making through your social media, here for it, absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Let's start with the recent Gulab Jamun video. I saw you in a kitchen in Lahore's bakery. How was the experience?
Well, I always say that it's very important for the International Labour Organization to be seen in the world of work. And there's nothing I enjoy more in my job than to visit workplaces and to listen to workers, to identify some of the challenges they face and then see how we can possibly collaborate to improve things. So the visit to the sweets factory was one of those visits. It was a very sweet visit, I must say.
It looked very sweet, honestly. And I've also seen you talk about, the dignity and mental health of workers, and regardless of what sector of work they are in. That is absolutely something really close to my heart because, of course, you spend the most of your day working. If you are in the workforce and any kind, like I said, blue collar or white collar, mental health really matters. You advocate for it. You were talking about it. So what I want to ask you is, you've been talking to the decision makers, lawmakers, and then also the people who are working. Do you find that there's a divide that needs to be bridged, or do you think everyone is on the same page in terms of dignity and mental health?
No, I think there are big differences depending on which sector you look at and which population you look at. And I am very glad that you raised the issue of mental health. Just a few days ago, we celebrated the World Day for Safety and Health at Work. And often when we talk about occupational safety and health, we think of the traditional workplace with the machines and the hazards that come with operating machinery and so forth. And we sometimes forget the invisible occupational safety and health hazards, which come with stress, which come with long working hours, which come with tiring working conditions, and that affect psychosocial well-being and your stress levels. So this year we wanted to raise awareness around the importance of also taking that into account when addressing occupational safety and health. And some sectors in particular are prone to more stress and long working hours than other sectors. So this year I spent Occupational Safety and Health Day at a hospital where I saw how the healthcare workers go through very long working days, often in very stressful environments, making quick decisions, life or death decisions, and how that impacts well-being at the workplace. And I was quite impressed by what I saw, and I also identified some of the areas that we are working on and can do more on.
Now I'm going to take you back to a topic that you spoke about, yes, and then you went there, and also you were in touch with the workers over there. Brick kilns in Pakistan. While it's a cultural thing, yes, it's absolutely huge in labor force also. Again, it also contributes a lot to the environment damage. Yes, we are now onto the newer version of, let's say, the zigzag mechanism. Is it working out for us? Are the laborers there happy?
Well, let me address the environmental aspect first, because I'm very happy these days when I drive to Lahore. I remember when I first came to Pakistan, I drove to Lahore and I saw so many kilns and the chimneys letting out black smoke. Yeah. Nowadays, when I go to Lahore and I drive along the motorway and I see the brick kilns, more and more of them are letting out white smoke, which means they've adopted the zigzag technology, which is far more environmentally friendly, but also far more friendly for the workers who, of course, work in the brick kilns. Having said that, the brick kiln sector is so big in Pakistan. It contributes so much employment, and of course it contributes to the construction of infrastructure and buildings across Pakistan. Unfortunately, it's a sector that traditionally has been quite unregulated, and it's been a sector where we've observed what we call unacceptable forms of work. It's a sector that has been prone to child labor over the years, and also what we call forced and bonded labor. It's also a sector where working conditions have been quite tough, and where laborers have been unprotected in terms of physical protection, but also in terms of social protection and social security if something were to happen. So it's a sector that we've been working from the ILO side very closely with to improve working conditions, to raise awareness of brick kiln owners around occupational safety and health measures, and also where we've been working to organize the laborers so that they can collectively bargain for better rights.
Thank you so much for bringing this up, because the latest stats that I have, approximately 4.5 million people are working for the brick kilns. And officially, it is illegal to have bonded labor, officially. But belonging to the rural area, there's the problem of illiteracy also. So when you're engaging with this group of people who is working in bonded labor, unfortunately, even though it's illegal, how do you, first of all, educate them and then incentivize them?
You're very right, bonded labor is illegal, and we are very happy that Pakistan has ratified all the ILO instruments, as we call them, conventions, that forbid bonded labor. However, as I just mentioned earlier, it still exists, and it's widespread, not only in the brick kiln sector, but also in other sectors. This is due to historical tradition, and it's something that is difficult to change overnight. It requires raising awareness and knowledge on behalf of owners of both brick kilns and other sectors. It also requires intervention by the government in terms of labor inspection, for example, to address these issues. And it also requires the workers to be able to collectively stand up and give voice to their unacceptable forms of work. So it takes a contribution from all sides of the world of work, government, employers, and workers.
So there's hope in, like you said, getting the right mechanism in place so that everyone enjoys the safety, first of all, and then equal rights. You also mentioned, unfortunately, child labor in this. And speak for it, every child deserves a childhood. How are we going about that? I know you're in touch with the national organizations also. What is the next step?
Well, child labor unfortunately persists, and it has persisted for a very long time. There are some sectors that are particularly prone to child labor. Agriculture is one of them. ILO has instruments that have been ratified by Pakistan, which, again, as with bonded labor, makes child labor illegal. And there isn't a shortage of laws to regulate this matter. However, we see in practice it still persists. And, child labor is born out of poverty. It's not out of the desire of any mum or dad to send their children into labor. It is born out of necessity, and it's born out of poverty. ILO's response to child labor has always been to provide mum and dad with decent work so that they have the choice not to send their children into labor. So we are working on this both through awareness raising of communities, of families, building the capacity of employers, building capacity of trade unions to address the matter, and also working closely with the government to strengthen enforcement of the provisions that exist within the laws.
The government is very actively working against child labor, of course, Punjab government especially. And I see that. And I see that on household level also, how there's now laws and people are more cautious and aware about it also. But can you please explain to me? So, for example, when you incentivize the parents and convince them to send the child to school rather than to work, how confident are you that when you leave, they're actually going to do that?
We have no guarantee, but we are confident seeing the results of projects that we've implemented, that it does have a positive impact. And in recent labour force surveys that have been carried out across provinces, we do see positive trends, and that gives us a lot of hope that we are moving in the right direction.
And that gives us hope also. So definitely looking forward to it. I know you engage with the communities a lot on ground. Like you don't seem like a person who will just sit in the office and be like, okay, I need this done. But you're on the ground, and I absolutely love that for you, but also for the people out there. Can you recall, from any sector, can you recall a story that really stayed with you and it motivated you to actually change the system in that case?
Well, I think I've been visiting quite a number of workplaces, and a few do stay with me. I had the opportunity to visit a coal mine in Balochistan, and I must say that that is a sector which is particularly exposed to workplace hazards and
Absolutely.
accidents, and we do see very frequent reports of accidents taking place in the mining sector. And I will never forget the faces of the coal mine workers when they emerged from underground after an 8-hour shift, and they were covered in soot,
Yeah.
and their lungs covered in soot. And that is something very powerful that tells me we need to do more to address working conditions, not only of the mining sectors, but also of other sectors that I have visited and seen some of the conditions that prevail.
Right. Unfortunate indeed. I have never been, but just listening to you, I can completely understand. And can I just say that specifically in the mining sector, I think it's not just Pakistan, even if we go to the West, even elsewhere, the hazards that you're talking about are the same because the work is such. For example, there are some things that you cannot ignore, like methane explosions, mine collapses, gas leaks, to name a few. And this is a global issue, not just Pakistan. Is ILO actually working on something that can make mining safe?
Yes, and we are working at different levels. We do have an international convention on safety in mines, and we are hopeful that Pakistan, in the not too distant future, will ratify that convention. That will provide a very sound and robust legal framework within which to regulate the sector. So that is one level of intervention. Then we provide technical advice on occupational safety and health in both surface mining, as we call it, and underground mining, which is one of the most dangerous forms of mining. And then, of course, mining also has traditionally been a sector, unfortunately, where child labor has existed. It is what we refer to as a worst form of child labor. So we also have interventions to raise awareness around the particular hazards of engaging children in that type of work.
Cotton season is going on. Cotton harvesting is ongoing. Wheat harvesting already finished. While the government itself has declared the minimum daily wage, even for farmers, in the agriculture sector also, people will not take it seriously. So for the women I know from my village, for example, I have two villages and both of them, I know at the moment they're harvesting cotton. I know they will go work in the morning, in the evening they will take the money, come back the next day or depending on whenever they need it. Records, missing records, formalization. And I saw on ILO website that you are working with the government of Pakistan to digitize a lot of records also. Should I be looking forward to something similar in this sector?
We are working in the cotton sector. I spent a day actually picking cotton
You
in
did? Oh, wow.
Bahawalnagar during the previous harvest, and 90% of cotton pickers are women.
Are women, yeah.
They earn $1 to $2 a day, and they work very long shifts, often 10 to 12 hours. We are trying to change that. We're trying to increase wages so that cotton pickers can have a decent wage. We're trying to improve the working conditions of the cotton pickers so that they can have more access to facilities and more occupational safety and health equipment, and also work with the owners of the cotton fields to ensure that they are aware of their responsibilities as employers. So, of course, one answer we believe to to some of these challenges is, of course, also for workers to be able to organize and to bargain collectively for better rights. And since it's Labor Day, I think it's appropriate to recall the importance of and the strength of unions.
Definitely. And, at the moment, I'm pretty sure you're aware also Prime Minister's digital economy scheme is ongoing and actively, not just the government, but I think anyone who really feels deeply about Pakistan developing, actively everyone is working on it.
I think efforts at digitization helps have a better understanding of the situation. It gives easy access to data, and you can also more easily register workers and ensure that they get the right access to minimum protection.
Let's see, 3 to 5 years from now, how do you see Pakistan responding to the commitments it has made with ILO?
I think we're moving in a very good direction. I think last year, as I mentioned, Pakistan ratified 3 of our labour standards, and that was the first ratification in 18 years of an ILO labour standard by Pakistan. Okay. I think that shows a re-engagement, as it were, or a reaffirmation of Pakistan's commitment to the principle of decent work. We see great attention to the priorities that we have established with the government and with employers and workers when it comes to social protection, when it comes to employment creation, particularly for young people, because Pakistan is a very young country, and unfortunately right now the growth of the economy is not such that it can absorb all the labour market entrants who are now emerging. So a lot is happening at the policy level in terms of skills policy, in terms of making sure that provisions are in place that can facilitate access to labour for young people, both in Pakistan but also through responsible labour migration. So there are many positive steps, and I think that's worth celebrating. And of course we recognize that there are many challenges that remain, and that it will take time. But that we are moving in a good direction.
Okay, just because you mentioned multiple stakeholders whenever you're working towards development of a country, especially in the sector that we are talking about, who do you think is the most difficult link over here?
In terms of?
So all the stakeholders we're working with the government, and then private sector, also community itself, people who are a part of the labor force.
Yes. Well, ILO has a fairly unique structure, so our membership is based not only on the government but also on representative employers organizations and representative workers organizations. So whatever we do in Pakistan, it's in consultation with all 3 constituents, as we call them. And I think I see great commitment on the part of all 3 constituents to advance our decent work agenda. And I think it would be very dangerous for me to say that.
Got it.
Is more dangerous.
Say
but,
no more.
But I think we do have an extremely good collaboration with all 3 partners, and it's also fairly unique for a country to see the close collaboration that exists between employers and workers. Often these are at loggerheads in many places, but here we have a very good and understanding and respectful working relation between them.
So Geir, you've been in Pakistan since 2023, if I'm not wrong. What is your biggest takeaway from your experience in Pakistan so far? And I want a soft and then a hard answer also.
I think the experience I've had has been tremendously diverse. I've been able to do so much in a short period of time, I feel. I mean, not do much in terms of achievements, but experience so much. I have been able to travel by train from Lahore to Rawalpindi to meet with the railway unions. Wow. I've been able to go out on a fishing vessel to meet with the fisher people. Yeah. I've been able to go to a mine, to other sectors of the economy, and what I take away from all those visits and experiences, in particular, is the perseverance and the dedication of the working women and men. And I think that's worth recalling on Labor Day, because these are the workers who drive our economies and who sustain our societies. And I think Labor Day is a good day to reaffirm our commitment to decent work and equality and social justice, which is, of course, our mandate.
And this is, I think, a perfect segue into your message to the labor force and to everyone watching you right now on the International Labour Day.
Well, I think my message would be that remember that workers' rights and the fundamental rights that we enjoy, whether it be the 8-hour working day, whether it be the minimum wage, whether it be the regulation of night work or any other right that we enjoy in the world of work, these are not rights that have been handed down to us. These are rights that have been earned and rights that have been fought for. And the battle continues in many respects, as it were. And I think that's important to remember on this particular day. And I think labour rights remain as vital today as ever. So my heartiest congratulations to everyone on this year's Labour Day.
Thank you so much, Geir. You were, first of all, an amazing guest. And then it's so refreshing to see someone working in Pakistan so deeply dedicated to the development of Pakistan also. So thank you for being that person and for joining us today also.
Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, conversations never end. I will catch you right here next week in the chat room, which is, until then, a very happy Labour's Day to everyone watching and everyone working.